Thanks for joining me, Evelyn.
Thanks, James.
We usually start off these talks with a short introduction to yourself and who you represent.
Okay, right. Yeah, so my name is Evelyn O'Sullivan and I'm the manager at the Cork Convention Bureau. So my job basically is to bring business tourism, meetings, conferences, events into the Cork region. And I've been doing that now for over 10 years. So I would like to think hopefully that I'm some bit of an expert on the Cork region at this stage.
Absolutely. So we generally sort of look at Cork as a great destination, particularly for some of our clients that are in media and tech, as well as some of our private groups, because it's a beautiful part of the world, obviously, to visit. But sort of how is the current situation in Cork in terms of the virus and the precautions and the lockdown?
Yeah, it's very difficult, James, as you can imagine. I suppose about 50% of the hotels have now reopened since the 29th of June. That was the government phases were brought back so that everybody could open earlier. But so about 50% of them, as I said, have reopened now. What they're opening into is an unknown, really. Everybody in Ireland is being encouraged to do a staycation and to spend money in their local hotel and their local business and restaurants and cafes. And the hotels are very busy. They've got a lot of bookings coming in. I would say more or less just kind of from now onwards until the end of August. But I think the average occupancy still is at 30 to 40% for a lot of the city hotels, and then it's much higher than that out in the rural county locations. So we're finding that people are very keen to go to the locations in Cork, which is where the coastal locations, the beautiful locations next to lots of space, and we're lucky enough to have that in Cork. Obviously, we have Cork City, which is like Ireland's second largest city, and we have some amazing hotels in Cork City. But it just seems to be the trend that people on their holidays are looking to go for that hotel with that extra space, just from what they've experienced through the pandemic. I suppose the main thing for us is that Cork is a very corporate focused and is a city and a region that has a lot of multinationals based here. We're lucky enough to have a lot of companies, American companies that have their financial services offices, headquarters based here in Cork, and Apple employ over 5,000 people here in Cork. And I suppose we're nervous and concerned about that business, that corporate business, both in terms of the business traveller. I think there's like 5,000 room nights every week that are taken up by the business traveller. And then obviously there's the whole question of business events, as in the conference, the meeting and the incentive, and what they're going to look like, as you know only too well yourself from running your agency, what they're going to look like in the near future. So a lot going on at the moment, James. That's it.
What sort of changes as Cork have had to make in terms of, I mean, obviously there's going to be the usual sanitary sort of things, but are there any sort of changes that we can now expect that's made it a lot different from previous?
In terms of specific changes, we've been seeing a lot of our venues and our hotels trying to learn how to adapt and being innovative. I suppose they're, as I was mentioning to you earlier in our chat, one of our key hotels here in Cork City, the Metropole Hotel, a beautiful old style meeting and leisure hotel, popular for everything really, has linked up with the Everyman Theatre next door to try and create extra space that they can offer to their clients in a socially distanced manner. So I suppose a lot of the capacities have all changed. We're working on a 1 meter social distancing rule at the moment. We're working on a 2 meter social distancing rule at the moment, and the tourism groups are lobbying for that to be brought down to a 1 meter rule. And I would say that would be brought across the line, and that'll make things different. But the meetings, the capacity at the meetings venues are going to be smaller, but I suppose what we're trying to do is make up for that loss by offering other innovative solutions, which we hope will make up for the change. what we've loved to see in Cork, and it's thanks to our Cork City Council. We've seen a lot of the pedestrianised streets in Cork, which didn't really have much in the way of outdoor seating previously. So we've seen a massive burst in that. A lot of outdoors dining tables and chairs that are communally put in front of restaurants and venues. And so we're seeing these fantastic images of Cork looking like a Mediterranean city where people are wandering up and down, and the waiters are coming out and the waitresses to take the orders from various places. So we're delighted to see that happening. Now, I suppose, that's a kind of a seasonal solution. We're obviously aware of that. But in the town of Kinsale, which is a beautiful coastal town, only about 30 minutes from Cork Airport, the idea of pods has been popping up, so that groups could pre-book these pods and safely dine out in the outside area, in front of fantastic restaurants and venues. And Kinsale is a beautiful town. It's known as the gourmet capital of Ireland, and it's the starting point of the Wild Atlantic Way driving route that takes you all the ways from Cork, all the ways up a number of 1,000 kilometres up to Donegal, right up in the north of Ireland. So these towns and these seaside and coastal towns, like, their bread and butter is tourism, and incentive groups and corporate groups, and they need to massively look at their product. And we're so proud of them that they are doing so by changing their layouts and by adding on these pods and these outdoor seating areas. So they're only small steps, but we're hoping that in the short term that they would bring in initially domestic leisure tourists, and that if that works well, that the corporate bookers and the meeting planners and the DMCs will start to see that it can work, and that they might do it in a slightly larger scale. So that's our hope, really, that the domestic market will show what can be done in this new world.
I think that's been the real positive message in doing these interviews with people is how the industry itself has obviously been hit very, very hard, as many industries have, but particularly hospitality and events, but how it's bouncing back and how people are working together, not just, as I say, in terms of what you said with the hotel and the theatre coming together, but how innovative other suppliers and venues are being in terms of what they can do to get people in. And I think it's a real good message to go out to people to sort of maybe look at getting the confidence back and looking at ways and means you're doing your events now, and maybe changing them up slightly, trying something different, having an experience. Like you say, we briefly touched upon sort of some of the sustainability that we can do out there as something that maybe clients have thought about but never really delved into.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, sustainability was a key focus for us even before the COVID-19 crisis, and so we're very focused on maintaining that. We started our submissions to the Global Destination Sustainability Index in 2018, and we've been improving our ranking ever since. And we're going to submit an entry this year, even though it's in an unusual year. And we've been working a lot with our local authorities and with the educational institutions here in Cork to make sure that we're seen to be a very sustainable destination. And actually, interestingly enough, I heard through the IMEX group and the GDSI group that and a survey with event planners that the IMEX group did, that 95% of them were focused on sustainability and sustainable events pre-COVID-19, and that actually that seemed to have been maintained, if not increased, in terms of what people's focus is. And while I know there's the fear of reusable plastics being an increase in reusable plastics in hotels, etc., I think the counter side, where people are looking at more sustainable events, will counteract that eventually. And we're I suppose for us here, it's a case of Cork was very focused on outdoor activities for the last number of years for corporate groups, and every incentive group or corporate group that came to Cork, I suppose, while they picked the hotel to stay in, the majority of the activities were outdoor events, whether they be sailing or kayaking or heading out to Spike Island, which is off the coast of Cork Harbour, and from the town of Cove, where the Titanic sailed from all those years ago. So we were already focused on the outdoor events, and even though we've got our weather, which doesn't always work with us, people are very keen to do this because we've got such beautiful fresh air, and we're it's such a lovely part of the country. So it's just a case of pushing these type of events to take them that step further, and I suppose as a convention bureau, we're sort of looking at like we really want to maintain the product offering that Cork has to offer, and that means supporting the suppliers and the companies that provide these products, whether they be team building companies or the sailing companies or the food tour people or the electric bike cycling people or kayaking companies. Because if we don't support them and if they're not supported, then we don't have a product. So like I think it's an opportunity, to massively think outside the box in terms of developing this outdoor activity type of event, and even outdoor, more kind of indoor outdoor dining, and that, which maybe Irish people, didn't always think was a kind of a natural thing that could happen because of our weather. And now we're seeing that it is happening. And even if it's only, 18 degrees, the people are happy to have a cup of coffee and have a lunch outside. So yeah, I think it's a good opportunity that something like that is coming from all of this.
And I think just to emphasize, it's something that I think a lot of businesses, a lot of clients overlook in terms of destinations for events, is the amount of massive opportunity and variety that you can do in the likes of Cork, in terms, like say, for meetings and incentives. So, and then you've got the food and the drink as well, which is always great.
Absolutely. Yeah, people are often surprised when they come to Cork and they see the standard of the quality of food. Like a lot of while Cork doesn't have very many Michelin-starred restaurants, there's a huge focus on the artisan food and the local produce and where the food is coming from. And a lot of our suppliers, they have their food for sale in what we call the English market. It's like one of Europe's largest covered food markets that's in our city. And locals go there, and tour groups go there to walk through it, and it's always included in a food walking tour. And you can have tastings at the fish counter or at the, even there's Cork chocolate and fantastic breads and fruit and everything. So we've always been focused on that, on good produce in Cork. And maybe it's something, that it's only in the last number of years that we've really been shouting about it, So that's the thing. It's I suppose it's the sometimes we say Cork is the world's best secret, and we want to kind of shout about that secret now. We don't want to keep it secret any longer. Especially now.
I can certainly recommend the chocolate. I think a meeting I've had with you guys and with Seamus, he was kind enough to hand out some of the chocolate, and it was really good.
Yeah, O'Connell's Cork chocolate is very famous here in Cork. So yeah, we're delighted with that. Yeah, there is a lot, and people often think of Dublin for their events and for their incentives. But if you've done Dublin, then Cork is Ireland's second largest city, and then it's an opportunity to just come down to do Cork as well, And I suppose it's very easy to do a 2-stay option in Ireland. There's a train that goes between Dublin and Cork, or it's a 2.5-hour journey. And likewise, the motorway is like a 2.5-hour journey from Cork to Dublin. So Ireland is tiny, as you know. So doing a 2-stay option is always a good potential as well. But having said that, we would encourage people to try and spend most of their time in Cork, because it is really a special place. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think you've pictured it perfectly. I don't see why we shouldn't be heading out to Cork as soon as we can. So thank you very much for that. Is there anything else that you'd like to add at all?
No problem. No problem. And delighted to have been able to chat to you today on this interview. I suppose we just want to really get the message out to people, because as you can imagine, it will be difficult for an island country like Ireland, which is very small, a small population, to be able to maintain our tourism, business tourism, and our business events. So we really want to just encourage people, when the time is right, to come and try Ireland, and especially for people in the UK. It's an easy option, and it's very straightforward. So come on over is what we want to say.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Evelyn. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Evelyn. I look forward to talking to you again in another stage, maybe in real life.
Yes, that would be
Yeah,
nice. Virtual has
absolutely.
its place, but it would be very nice to be back
Exactly.
in front of
Yeah,
people.
that's it. Thanks, James. We look forward to welcoming you to Cork sometime.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
It's time to remember, because it's time to go back to when summer holidays meant ships in Kinsale, discovering the exotic on Garnish Island, and long days in Barley Cove. Because Cork has woken from its slumber to welcome you back and keep you safe. Because even though we have a new normal, there's still so much to see, do, taste and enjoy. It's time to return, and it's time to explore what's always been here. Because just look at what's waiting for you.
Yeah, now don't be afraid, invent yourself. Yeah, don't be ashamed, reinvent yourself. You let them take it away, invent yourself. With every day that you live.
It's time for Cork to welcome you back.
Thank you for watching. We welcome any feedback and questions in the comment section below, and please make sure you follow me on all our social networks.